You are listening to the India Chalo podcast, a platform where we bring travelers from all over the world to talk about their journeys across India, to discuss their trysts, their adventures with the people, the food, the culture, the heritage, and so much more. To give you, our listeners, a sneak peek into what India has to offer for your next trip. Stay tuned. Hello, fellow travelers. Namaste, and welcome to a brand new episode of the India Chalo podcast. I do realize we have been away for quite some time. Our last episode was released in October of 2020. But because of the pandemic, because of the tough year that was 2021 for everyone, I decided to push it out to this year when people have slowly began traveling again. So I thought this was the right time to start putting out new episodes and continue the work that I've been doing in bringing these travelers' journeys to life and bringing them on the India Chalo podcast. So super excited that all of you are here. I am your host, Rohan. I am the host of the India Chalo podcast, and this is season 2. We are coming up with 10 new episodes, new travelers, new places, new journeys, and so much more. Right. So I'm so excited to have you here. My guest today is Ganesh Raj. Ganesh has been exploring India and the world for the last 15 years. And apart from travel, wildlife conservation is something that is close to Ganesh's heart. Ganesh cannot imagine his life without travel, and it was apparent in how passionate he was in discussing his trip and everything that he did during his trip. And he firmly believes that any trip that one takes leaves a mark and changes people in some way or another. And I completely stand by that. I took my first solo trip back in 2014, and the way it has shaped me over the years and helped me come out of my comfort zone has been a wonderful experience just to be in that space. So I completely relate to Ganesh. And today, Ganesh talks about the Pink City. If you haven't guessed it already, it's Jaipur. But not only that, he's also combined Jaipur with Ranthambore. So we get into the details of what a traveler could do in the Pink City and how he could engage and spot a tiger in Ranthambore. But we go way beyond that. We discuss the culture of Jaipur. We discuss the food that you could eat. We could discuss the helpful people that are in Jaipur and Ranthambore and all the things that you could do in these two places over a week or so. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed speaking to Ganesh about it. Without further ado, here is Ganesh. I am here with Ganesh Rajgopal. Ganesh, welcome to the India Chalo podcast. Super excited to have you here and can't wait to hear all about what you have for us today. So welcome, Ganesh. And might have introduced you in the beginning of the podcast, given an introduction to the audience. But for those listening, can you give your introduction in brief? Tell us about where you are right now and tell us about you a little bit more.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm Ganesh. I'm in Coimbatore at the moment. So I have been in the South. I was born in South India, so I have been here for like last 3-4 years. But I have been in Rajasthan. I have been in Mumbai for quite a bit. So I'm working in international marketing. And apart from that, I love to travel. So, blessed to be in India because it allows us, gives us so many opportunities to actually explore the land. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, what got you into traveling in the first place? Like, tell us about what started that passion for you. Because in a conversation previously, you told me that you travel a lot. So, what actually sparked that? And tell us about that first moment that got you into traveling.
Yeah, like I would like to say, I was always fascinated by places. Yeah, so even in school, like geography was my favorite subject. So, but my first travel, what I remember would be which I did solo was kind of like in Chennai, and like we had been to a family function or a wedding basically. So I had just got around a half a day off. So while my relatives were enjoying, getting together and stuff, I decided to go to the Marina Beach and to the Crocodile Park. So I was like, everyone in my family thought I'm crazy, right? Instead of being in the wedding. But that's how it's like kind of my earliest memory, which I remember. But my real travel actually started in Mumbai when I was there, I started trekking, and especially the monsoon treks in Sahyadris are quite famous there. And I whenever I used to get time from work and stuff like that, so I that's where I actually started exploring India, and those was if like I would say my first initiation in a good side of traveling was when I was in Mumbai, like around it happened around 10 to 15 years back. So yeah, and once you start doing it, like you get hooked. It's and as I said already, in India there are so many places to explore, so you cannot ever be satisfied.
Absolutely, very well said. And there's so much diversity both in number of places and the cultures
Exactly.
and things to do. So absolutely agree with that. What when was your
Yes.
first trip? What was the first trip that for you decided that okay, I want to do this a lot more? Tell us about that first trip and your experience there.
Yeah, like my first trip actually was like which I kind of remember very well was in the Northeast, So that was something which was like totally out of what I had experienced ever. And I was like, even like when I had been to the west of India or the south or even in the north, it was always like, okay, something familiar. But Northeast was something which like took me out of my comfort zone. The people I met there, the culture was like totally different. And I was like, wow, like I didn't even know, there are so many kinds of these kinds of places. And probably one lifetime will not be enough to actually explore all that. So I decided kind of, to like not go on short trips, like wherever we get time for a week or so. I decided like might as well take some breaks, while I change jobs or take a sabbatical and do it like at my own pace. So that's where like the Northeast is I would like credit, and of course to a certain extent Ladakh, because Ladakh the first time when I went was on a very limited itinerary for 15 days, and I thought no, I have to come back here again, and then when I went there again for like 3-4 months, that's like Northeast and Ladakh, I would say, would totally change my perspective on travel. And it's always best to do at your own pace rather than just rush through things. And you might always miss out on certain stuff. So these two places actually changed my perspective on travel. Absolutely, totally a sea change. Before that, what I used to do was totally different.
Wonderful. I think those are two very diverse places. So I'm curious
Yeah.
to know about that. But today, let's focus on one place.
Yeah.
So Ganesh, which place are you taking us today? And
Yeah.
tell us about why did you decide that particular place?
So today I'm going to talk about like Jaipur and Ranthambore. So Jaipur is a place which is really close to my heart. I have stayed there for quite a bit. I did my schooling there. So it's like whenever I go there, it feels like home. It's always like I know the surroundings. I know like inside out how the people there are. So like even like when I have been like I shifted to Bombay, I shifted to the south. I try to make it a point at least go to Jaipur once a year or once in 2 years, just meet my friends and just, see if there is anything new I can explore. And one thing about Jaipur is, like how much ever you travel there, especially the old city, when you explore it on foot, you will always find something new. It's a totally, a very culturally rich place. You will always find something, new there and like which I would have not seen in my previous trip. And along with that, yeah, like Ranthambore is something which is really dear to my heart. That's the first place I actually first spotted a tiger. Like it's kind of one of my like the most important animal for me, like personally. And like I am a bit into wildlife conservation as well. So it's like I have a dream of like visiting as many national parks as possible in India. So for Ranthambore, it's really special because that's where I actually spotted the tiger for the first time in my life. And whenever I go to Jaipur, I try to include that in my trip as well and see if I can just rekindle the old romance once again. Yeah.
Amazing, wonderful. Can't wait to dive deep into that.
Yeah.
So Jaipur is often known as the pink city. So going beyond that, I am excited to hear about what you think is there to explore. Apart from the culture, apart from all the food and everything else. So let's dive deep into that. But firstly, tell us about what time of the year is best to visit Jaipur, and talk about maybe the ideal time to visit and what was the weather like and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So, like, I would say the best time would be something October, November before the peak winter sets in, because the winters can be really, single digit temperatures. It can be really cold. So maybe you can explore a bit during the daytime, but the nights will be really cold for people who are not used to it. So I would say October, November would be the best time, and probably a bit in Feb and March before the real summer kicks in. Even the monsoons, I would say, are really, really special. But unfortunately, Ranthambore will be closed during that time. But if you want to explore just Jaipur, I would say monsoons are a great time, like sometime in August or something, because along with the forts, you have the greenery which comes in. Like it's not seen during the other months, And so the forts get a total new perspective. You get a total new kind of surroundings which you can explore, which you cannot do during the summer and winter time. And like personally, I've been there like in different phases, but summers would I would say it's kind of avoidable until and unless you don't have any other choice. But like of course, anytime from the monsoons till February is a decent enough time to explore that.
That's very interesting because I often, the mainstream idea is to go to, to Jaipur in the winter months and explore all the possible places because that's probably the peak tourist season to visit. So,
Yeah,
exciting perspective. Okay.
yeah,
So let's dive deep into an itinerary of what travelers could do in maybe 2 or 3 days in Jaipur and Ranthambore, and let's go through that
yeah.
itinerary. So, tell us, where did you start your journey from? Which city did you travel to Jaipur?
Yeah. So ideally, like if in my kind of if I would like to suggest someone, I would like suggest them around 4 days in Jaipur minimum, and probably a couple of days in Ranthambore. Like you do both the morning and evening safaris to just get a different perspective. I'll get to the details at a later stage. But like if you don't have 4 days, so like kind of the forts are a must do. The Amer Fort is quite the most famous one there. So it was kind of the main headquarters for the Rajputs and all the kings there. And the one thing which you should not miss is along with Amer, you have Nahargarh and Jaigarh forts as well. So basically, you do Amer and then you move on to the others. And you have the fort walls basically where you can walk, and that gives you a totally different kind of a perspective of the city, like how it was kind of built to protect Jaipur, how it was built to protect, and with the security which they have, and the arms which were there, and Jaigarh has one of the biggest cannons there. So basically it gives you an idea totally how things would have been back there, like around 300-400 years back. And if you also have time, you should definitely try hot air ballooning. So it's a kind of a recent phenomena at Amer Fort. So that once you go up, it gives you a total bird's eye view, and that's something which is like totally unique. And in the nighttime, actually, Amer, in the last 5-6 years, we have actually developed it so well that it is lit up very well at night. And they have the sound and light show where they explore the history and they show it on the fort wall. That is something you should not miss at all. So basically, it will take you one day totally at the fort. And like if and once you go into the second day, you could explore Albert Museum, and you could go towards the interiors of the city like Jantar Mantar. You can do the City Palace. You can do Hawa Mahal. So basically, these are around a simple radius. So all these all buildings can be explored within a day's time. But if possible, you should kind of try to include 1 or 2 more days so that you could do at your own pace and actually interact with locals, because the old cities were really, really like congested, crowded. But that's where you get the culture totally. You could just walk down in the streets. You could just go to certain places, find out a lot more revenues where, each bazaar or each market is like specific to certain kinds of goods. You'll find gold jewelry, handicraft, bed sheets, and all that stuff. Even if you don't want to buy, you would always get these shops which have been open like 60, 70 years back. And of course, the food, like Rajasthani sweets, is like amazing. Definitely, you're going to get a sugar rush where each time you visit Jaipur. So I would say, yeah, these are like some things which you can do in 3 days in Jaipur. And there are 1 or 2 more places close to Jaipur, like Pushkar, or you have Sariska, a tiger reserve there as well. So these are places probably you can do as a day trip.
Awesome. So you talked about a couple of things in the first day. You mentioned a couple of forts, Amer Fort, Nihargarh Fort,
Nahargarh and Jaigarh, yes.
Nahargarh and Jaigarh. And you also mentioned the fort wall. So the fort wall and the hot air balloon are at Amer Fort, is it?
Yes, they are at Amer Fort. But even when you go to Nahargarh and Jaigarh, basically that was kind of a watchtower to protect Amer Fort. That's the reason how those fort came into being. And so there also you can explore the fort wall. And once probably like we used to as kids, or like not as kids, like when we were in school, we used to kind of go to Nahargarh just to watch the sunset. You get a totally different bird view of the city, where you could always see the sunset and you can see the city lights coming up. So that is also something, if you could take one more day, because if you are going for that at the sunset, you might probably miss the sound and light show at Arm Airport. Like there's a bit of a distance from there. So that is also something which is quite recommended, and that's a must do, once you are in kind of Jaipur. And these are like the forts will definitely take a whole day of yours, like if you're going into the total exploration part and stuff like that. And now the government has done really well. Like it has actually beautified the space, it has made lots of good facilities, and it's very very traveler friendly now. So
That's
so
wonderful.
this,
That's yeah.
sure. So like this would be what I say, like of the places which you can do in Jaipur. And from there, like Ranthambore is kind of 4 hours drive, or like 3.5. So there, I would recommend like to do kind of at least early morning safari. If you can, like if you have a limited time, I would prefer to do a morning safari, because the visibility and the chances of spotting wildlife is much better in the morning. And but there are like the fort is there, and there are like a couple of museums there, natural history museum and stuff, which you can club it in a day. It doesn't take more time. Yeah.
Get it. Okay. Okay, that's good. So if you do a combination of, let's say, Jaipur and Ranthambore, a traveler could easily do maybe 7 days and comfortably cover, all aspects of both Jaipur
Yes.
and Ranthambore and explore it at leisure. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So coming to a very important part of what makes Jaipur is the food, right? You mentioned sweets.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners about what are the offbeat places they could visit in Jaipur to explore the Rajasthani cuisine and so on and so forth, and try out various delicacies along the way.
Yeah. So, like, there has recently opened a place called Masala Chowk. So it actually has like 5 or 6 kind of Rajasthan specialty in one place. So earlier, like if you wanted to have kachori, you used to go to one part of the city. If you wanted to have dal bati churma, you used to go to another kind of a restaurant. So those kind of things. But now Chowk has opened, which kind of gives you all specialities under one roof. So that's definitely a must do, a must visit. So whenever you're in Jaipur, like kachori is quite famous there, like dal kachori, pyaz kachori and stuff. So it has been like you have like 2 or 3 eat this kind of rawat, the mishtan bandals, which we call them, rawat, samrat and kanha. So those are like definitely something which you should do. Then there is a place called Lassi Wala. So they kind of give the lassi in that earthen pot. So definitely that is also in the interior of the city. So that's also something which one should do. And of course, there is a place called Lakshmi Mishtan Bandar. It's a very historical place. Like it's been there for ages. So there, the sweets, the chaat, and the gaver, like a speciality of Rajasthan. That's something which you should definitely try. So these are all kind of I would say something which every person in Jaipur would know, or like most of the people in Jaipur would know. But there are like a couple of other restaurants which have come up, and in Rambagh Palace and ITC. So those kind of cuisine you might not get in other parts of the country. ITC, the dal bukhara is quite famous. So that is, I think, available only Jaipur, Delhi, and probably Bombay. So that is also a must try if you are in Jaipur.
Amazing. You make me want to go to Jaipur immediately after this episode. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I also miss about Jaipur. Whenever I think about cuisine, it's like, oh my god, maybe if there is a way I could just order some stuff online and just get it delivered here, I would definitely be able to do that. Yeah,
Absolutely. And it's very unique to Jaipur, right? It's not,
yeah,
specialization is not really, available in the other cities of India, particularly. So you can say, because the specialties are very unique to Jaipur. So that's good to know.
yes. Like, especially the sweets. Like I used to remember when like we used to go for some weddings, we never used to miss a chance to go for all these Rajasthani weddings. So people used to say like more than the food, they can kind of attribute the success or failure of the wedding by the amount of sweets and the quality of sweets they serve.
Yeah.
And these people who make the sweets who are like come down generations. They would have served in their parents, wedding, their grandfather's wedding, and stuff like that. So that's how we used to decide if the sweets are good, the wedding is good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That, yeah, I've heard that too. In my a part of my family is from Rajasthan, so I do hear that a lot. That
Yeah,
success of any event is managed by how good the sweets are. So, yeah.
sweets, absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the food, we've talked about the places to visit, but tell us in Ranthambore, what are the options for people to stay, travelers to stay at? Are there hotels, are there lodges, or what kind of places can you expect?
Yeah, so in Ranthambore, there are quite a few places, but more or less, it's going into the in the last few years, I have seen a change of it's going into the medium and high kind of a budget. Like of course, like the Oberoi and the Taj would be on the top segment, but there are like of course like a budget friendly option like a RTDC. So it's like a castle, and it's a really good place to stay because it's of course budget friendly, and you kind of get a very very good sunset out of it. Even the place where they have their cafe and where they serve lunch, it's like overlooking the entire valley. So that's kind of a place which I would say a budget friendly person could go to. And like more or less now the resorts have actually quite mushroomed a lot in that kind of area. So more or less if you're looking for some decent accommodation, it would go in the range of like 6,000 and above. But I think RTDC would be a bit lower than that. And yeah, there has never been a problem actually finding kind of accommodation there. It's just that it has to kind of fit into your budget and the way you want to travel and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
like a couple of a couple of places where like you could have decent food also. Like you could go to Asha restaurant and stuff like that, where you can get the dal bati churma, bajre ki roti, and lasun ki chutney and all that. So those are all quite budget friendly options which people can look at.
got it. So there are different options available for all budget types. You have the hotels, you have the lodges, and so on and so forth.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. So talk about the safari experience in Ranthambore. You mentioned it a bit, but can you highlight what was your experience in the safari, and how long is it? Is it a half day thing? Is it a full day thing? Talk about that a bit.
Yeah. So basically, since the location of it is near the Aravalis and the Vindhya mountain ranges, basically, the forest is so beautiful. Like even if you are not like looking to spot a tiger or the wildlife, just for the forest, I think a trip it makes sense there. So like I guess there are like as per the last census around more than 50 tigers there. And like I was like my first the time I was intrigued by kind of the tigers which were there was a tiger called Machli. So she was the one kind of who actually fought off a crocodile, and maybe I think killed the crocodile. So that was when it came into prominence. And after that, all these tigers kind of have been given a unique name based on any kind of the mark they have on their skin or based on any of the things they have done. So each tiger story itself is kind of worth writing a book about. So that's what kind of intrigued me. And like luckily for me, like every time I have been there, I have been able to spot a tiger. Like it's I have don't remember any other national park or a sanctuary in India where that has been the case. It takes like 2-3 visits to actually be able to do that. So first time I went there was we had an evening safari, and basically as soon as we entered the park, we kind of saw the tiger. And the second time I did morning, so like I didn't spot the tiger during the safari, but as we were coming out of the gate, it was actually close to the main road.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's how the tigers are kind of they are so frequent there. And even the Ranthambore Fort, the location is absolutely beautiful. So it's kind of, especially if you go in the evening time with the sunset and everything, it's kind of perfect. And like for, I think the safari, they have two options. They have a 20-seater and they have the gypsy which seats six. So basically, if you're going as a family, that's the best option for you. And it would be around in the range of 5,000, 6,000 bucks.
Okay.
Or if you're doing a cancer, like it would be per person, I think it would be 800, 900, something like that. So if you're going alone, you have that option. It's not like you have to kind of already book a gypsy for that. Also, if you are looking to kind of do like a half day tour, you have stuff like I think from 10 to 15,000 you can hire a gypsy, and for that all the zones are basically open. So basically, I think 1 to 6 those are the core zones, and kind of the earlier you go or the earlier you book, the more possibility of getting a co-zone for your visit. And I think many of the guides say that zone 4, zone 5 is the best one to kind of spot a tiger. And so, yeah, like a morning safari begins at 6 in summers and 7 in the evenings in the winter. And the afternoon safari begins around 2:33 in that range. It goes for 3 to 3.5 hours. So, like, if a person is going there for the first time, I would definitely recommend, if they have time, 2 morning safaris and 1 evening safari to kind of make sure you are able to spot a tiger. Like, that gives you the best chance. If not, definitely the morning safari. And for this, the logic is a bit on the other side. Like, if you go in the summertime, because of the water is less and all that, so there is a high probability of actually getting to see a tiger in the summertime, as compared to a winter time where the kills and everything might be a bit later on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks so much for that. So, so there's a combination of what you mentioned is Jaipur has a lot of history plus food plus all these places that you have to visit. But then you also have this tryst with nature in Ranthambore where you get to see the forts, get to see the animals, and so on and so forth. So it's a good diversity in one trip. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk a bit about, so Jaipur has a lot of local communities as well, which are very well established in Jaipur. So any experience interacting with the people there, and how's your experience, just interacting with the local communities there, and tell us a bit about that.
So it's like in Rajasthan, that kind of a family, or the visitor friendliness is a lot more, where you go, like, people are very friendly to you, even if you're just walking down the street, and if you want to inquire, they will always be there to help. And like many people say that, okay, in India, people smile, and it's, I think, a cliche, but still in Jaipur, I kind of believe that's kind of true. I have never had an interaction where, people like are short tempered or something, like they're fighting or something. They're always ready to help you out, and with a smile. So we have this concept of in Jaipur of like Padharosa, Jimosa, and Virajosa. Like, it's basically, they say like, please come, or please have food, please sit. So that's the kind of friendliness which they have. Like, and sometimes when you are in a shop, or when you are just talking about stuff, even if I am not going to buy anything from them, they will just say, okay, come, just sit, have tea with us, or they will ask for a kachori or a samosa. So those kind of interactions are really possible even today in the old city. And like, people there I have found them to be very, very friendly. And it's basically that concept has carried through them through generations. And but at the same time, when you are going to shop, you have to definitely remember to negotiate. You cannot just accept what they say. That time they definitely want to make their money. So like, Rajasthanis, like Gujaratis, kind of have that business mindset.
Yeah.
So when you're talking as a customer, you have to remember, you cannot trust so much. You have to always negotiate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, that's great. So Ganesh, we've talked a lot of places across Jaipur, across Ranthambore, but if I have to give you a rapid fire round saying that, okay, tell me the top 3 places that we absolutely should not miss if someone goes there, let's say for 4 days or for a week. So what will be the top 3 places of the top of your head?
Okay, like, it's a very tough question, but like, I'll try to do my best. So the forts, I would like to combine all the forts in one, so that if I have named all the forts in different, all my top 3 will be finished.
Okay.
So I would say the forts, and definitely try the hot air ballooning there. Like, it's a recent thing. Even I have not tried, but my friends have, and they say it's like amazing. So that's something which needs to be done. And then I think Chowkidani is something which I forgot earlier. Like, Chowkidani is kind of having that kind of a village kind of a setup, and where they showcase the Rajasthani culture a bit, and they serve the Rajasthani cuisine. So it's on the outskirts. Like, basically, it will take you an hour from Jaipur to go. But that's something which you could mark in the evening and the night time, to go there and just learn a bit, see the puppet show, the handicrafts there, and that. And to eat, I would say like masala chop has to definitely be on the agenda. And of course, the museums like the City Palace and Albert Hall. That is something which needs to be done to actually understand the history and understand what Rajasthan is kind of famous for. So I think these 3, or maybe I exceeded the limit. These 4 would be kind of the most important things to do there. And for Ranthambore, I would say like the safari, like a morning safari is a must do. And if you have time, probably visit they have Dhonk, a place there which is close to Ranthambore, where they are trying to rehabilitate the ex-poachers who used to kind of kill the wildlife for money and stuff like that. So they are trying to rehabilitate them. So they have a cafe there. They are selling stuff, local souvenirs. So that would go a bit in helping the local people, and probably kind of keep them on a straight path and help the economy as well. So that is something. And of course, I forgot the RTDC's Jumar Bowery for the sunset. That is a must do when you are there in Ranthambore.
Wow, amazing, amazing. That looks like a bucket list of a dream trip. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So a lot of our listeners are actually solo travelers. So if I were to ask you, what is the approximate budget a solo traveler should keep in mind if they're visiting Jaipur and Ranthambore for, let's say, a week? What would your approx figure be?
So basically, if you are kind of doing all the trips, like you can always hire bikes and stuff in Jaipur. So that's not a problem. So if you are looking at a hotel accommodation, it would be like a budget one should be beginning from 2000, 2500. Even the RTDC in Ranthambore should be in that range. And so approximately, if you say around 10,000 for hotel, for local, you can do by bus, you can do by auto, and you can do hire your own kind of vehicle. And for Savai Madhopur, you can take a train or you can take a bus. So it's not a problem. So I think in that range of, if the biggest expense would be a safari if you're doing like $1,000 or stuff. But both of that, if like a rock bottom figure, I think it's possible to do it in 35,000.
Okay, great.
It's not a big.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So any final advice, let's say for someone who's visiting Jaipur and Ranthambore for the very first time, what should they keep in mind? In terms of safety, in terms of things that they absolutely should carry. Any particular advice for travelers as they keep in mind when they visit Jaipur?
So Jaipur and Ranthambore, I have found it to be quite safe. So it's not a problem even if you explore it at night. But what I would say is, like in Jaipur, at least, in the old city and stuff, it's always better to get lost. You just explore the streets, explore the narrow, all those small lanes and see things on your own. And just it's okay to get lost because you will find things which you have never seen in life, probably, or you rarely see in life. So it's a must do when you are there. And the forts, of course, are like totally out of this world. Like I would say that should be the first thing on your itinerary. And then, don't miss out the local food at all. So eat as much as possible streetwise, or like even on the restaurants which are giving the specialty food. And for Ranthambore, of course, like spend as much time as possible, like so that you can increase your chances of actually spotting the tigers. And probably read a bit more about Jaipur if you're like not familiar with the history of it, so that when you go there, you can actually it can open your mind and blow your mind. Because Jaipur is something which I would say every person in India should definitely visit.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for that. I think you've given a recipe to all our listeners to gain more weight.
Sorry, this episode was not diabetic friendly.
Yeah. So Ganesh, thanks so much for coming on to the India Chalo podcast. This was a wonderful journey that you took us on through your trip to Jaipur and Ranthambore. I'm sure our listeners will get a lot of value and insights from listening to you. Before we end the conversation, where can travelers keep up with your adventures? Are you on social media, or how can they reach you in case they have any further questions?
Yeah, so basically on Instagram, I am under the handle guns_82, GUNS_82. And on Wix, I am at the Wanderlust Diaries, on wix.com. So I'm available there.
Perfect. So we'll list both these channels on our show notes for this episode. So any listener who wants to talk to Ganesh or just follow his adventures can do so there. Before we end, Ganesh, one more question is, I know we are in the middle of a third wave, but are you daydreaming about your next trip? And tell us about where your next trip is going to be. I know you've traveled pretty much everywhere in any particular place.
Yeah. So basically, I would there are two places which I want to do. Like Ladakh, I have not been there for the last 5 years. So basically, I was working there with a Snow Leopard Trust, for them. So I want to actually take that up for 3 more months. And the Northeast, I want to do like a road trip from Sikkim to Bhutan. So that is something which I definitely do, but I don't know when. But yeah, hopefully soon.
That sounds really exciting, and we'd love to have you back for another episode to discuss that.
Sure. Anytime. It's been my pleasure. Anytime you call me, I'll be there.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ganesh. It was wonderful having you.
Thank you so much, Rohan.
Look forward to seeing you back here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. All the best. Bye.
If you enjoyed my conversation with Ganesh, do leave us a shout out. We are on Spotify, iTunes, Castbox, and all the other podcasting platforms out there. We are also on Instagram @India Chalo. So do leave us a follow and a message. We love to talk travel all day, online, every day. And we love hearing from travelers across India and the world who have journeyed across India. And we love to hear more about your experiences in India. So do reach out. We love to hear from you, and stay tuned to the India Chalo podcast. We have 10 more episodes lined up for season 2, and I look forward to seeing you for the next episode. See you.